but the entire improvement was due to boosting the voltage. So this is a shockingly high voltage for gallium arsenide photovoltaics. Now, the reason why we did this, we were able to get this incredibly high voltage, is we got extremely high luminescence efficiency. So this was a formula not written by Shockley, but inspired by his paper, but it's 50 years old. But the idea that you get the ideal thermodynamic voltage, but if you don't have 100% external luminescence efficiency, you pay a price and you lose voltage. And to get that very high luminescence efficiency, you have to keep the electrons and holes from recombining non-radiatively, which is to say keep them away from the surfaces, and that is enabled by the double heterostructure. So I'll give you an idea of what's going on there. In the textbooks on photovoltaic cells, this is the usual picture. The photons come in, you produce an electron hole pair, it gets collected, and that's the normal picture. The new picture, there's not yet in the textbooks, is that the real situation is very different. A photon comes in, it creates an electron hole pair, which immediately recombines to produce an infrared luminescent photon. That bounces around, gets reabsorbed, and re-emitted, and reabsorbed, re-emitted, and finally is collected as an electron hole pair. All of this requires fantastic mirror, but also requires fantastic interfaces, which is where the double heterostructure comes in. Now, it turns out that, yes, you need a good mirror, but surprisingly, you build up a very high density of infrared luminescence. So in this photovoltaic cell that I've been showing, if I would take it outside, there would be one sun falling on the photovoltaic cell, but inside the very thin film of gallium arsenide, you'd have 30, 40, or 50 suns of infrared luminescence bouncing around with the corresponding high concentration of electrons and holes. And it turns out actually it's good to lose some of that luminescence. That turns out to be a good indicator for a very high voltage solar cell. So it's very counterintuitive that would be the case. Now, the fantastic re-reflector has another consequence, and this has to do with yet another application in the future called thermophotovoltaics. And what it is, it takes heat radiation, Planck radiation, and it turns it into electricity. The idea is actually quite old. It dates to the early days of photovoltaic cells, and it says take the big photons and make electricity. But what do you do with 90% of the photons too small? Well, get a good reflector on the back. So if you remember, I said we have an excellent reflector. So we have a reflector for photons, but also for minority carriers. And so that reflector recycles the thermal photons, the ones that are too small to be turned into electricity, recycles them to the heat source, reheats the heat source, and in this way you can make very efficient conversion from heat into electricity. And in fact, this idea was developed, and a thermophotovoltaic car was demonstrated 20 years ago. Now, the efficiency was only 20% because they hadn't figured out yet that they should be using a double heterostructure. So amazingly, the double heterostructure concept, we can see this as providing power to automobiles. So that's kind of amazing. Now, I'll mention one more idea for using the double heterostructure. It's a little bit of a futuristic idea, and yet it's kind of an amazing one. And so I'll first ask you to think about the photovoltaic cell, then I'll turn it backwards and turn it into an LED, and we'll see what happens. So in a photovoltaic cell, you have sunlight coming in. It's coming from all directions, and sunlight carries entropy. If you're not sure, ask an astrophysicist, because they always calculate the entropy of the photons around the star. Here we're near a star, and we have sunlight, and there's a lot of entropy in the sunlight because it's coming from the blue sky, it's coming from all directions. It goes into the solar cell, and in the solar cell, you never get the full band gap of the semiconductor because the photons were not pure energy. The photons, they had some energy, but they also carried entropy because they were going in all directions. They were coming from all directions. And so you pay a price because of the entropy. The free energy is h nu minus the entropy term, and so you get the record voltage, which I just mentioned, which is slightly over 1.1 volts. And interestingly, most of the entropy of sunlight has to do with all of these directions. And it's geometrical, actually. It has to do with the solid angle subtended by the sun in the sky. In effect, if you look at the sun, you know where the sun is. But then you make a photovoltaic cell that accepts light from all angles, so you've thrown away all the information about where the sun is, and that throwing away the information is what's entropy. And so we have to, we pay a price of 0.3 of a volt. That's okay, that's still the record solar cell. Now I'm going to reverse time. So I'm reversing time, and now instead of being a photovoltaic cell, it's actually a light emitting diode. Instead of absorbing photons, it's emitting photons in all directions. And then we say, well, I reversed everything, so instead of getting an output of 1.1 volts, I have an input of 1.1 volts, but I'm getting photons out at the band gap, which is 1.4 volts. So the question arises, where did the extra roughly 0.3 of a volt of energy come from? And it's kind of obvious that the entropy had to come from somewhere, because these photons are very disordered from an LED. They're very disordered photons. And obviously that entropy is coming, that extra energy you need to get up to 1.4 volts is coming from lattice heat of the light emitting diode. So amazingly, it means that every light emitting diode should act as a refrigerator, because the light emission should be, it's an LED, so there's a lot of entropy in the light emission. So the LED should be cold. Now, so I have a kind of a joke. I asked my audience, have you, first I checked, does everyone have an LED bulb? And they just said everybody has an LED bulb. Have you touched it? Have you checked whether it gets cold? And of course, it does not get cold. Okay, it's still warm. And the reason is you're only getting 0.3 of a volt of cooling, and so you need 80% efficiency. But we're getting there with LEDs. We have already with gallium nitride, we have 80% efficiency. So we're going to have cooling. Now, you think that that's a brave new idea, but it's actually an old idea, and was actually envisioned, I think, originally by Shockley, and was published by solid-state theorist Jan Taub from Czechoslovakia in 1957, and keeps getting rediscovered. The LEDs should be refrigerators, and but Shockley, he was very smart, and he would like to tease people how smart he was. So I never knew Shockley, but I became very friendly with someone he teased by the name of Al Rose. And Al Rose was a very distinguished scientist and physicist in his own right, but he would tell me what it was like in the early days. He said, in the early days, the March meeting, there were just 24 of us. And can you imagine this meeting was only 24 people? And Shockley was there, and I was there. And so Shockley came up and teased him with the following question. He said, I have an LED which emits photons, and the photons go into a photovoltaic cell, which creates electricity. The electricity comes back to the LED and drives the LED, and he says, therefore, I have a perpetual motion machine, and therefore, Al, what's wrong with that? Of course, it's almost certain he brings me the answer. No one will ask that question except to tease someone, right? And so the answer is, yes, it is. Well, it's not quite a perpetual motion machine, but it's a kind of a heat engine. You have to make up the losses. You have to put a little battery in here, and so you end up taking care of the losses. But if you do that, if you put a little battery in the circuit and provide a little bit of energy, then what will happen is the LED actually will get cold, the photovoltaic cell actually will get hot, and it will only take a small amount of electricity because you're recovering the photon energy in the photovoltaic cell. So that says that every LED can be a refrigerator, and so it's kind of interesting. So let me wrap it up by saying how great is the double infrastructure to ask what it cannot do. Since it's doing so much, let's say what it cannot do. Well, first of all, let's say what it can do. It gives us all internet communication, so you cannot connect to the internet without lasers, semiconductor lasers. So that's pretty good. The double infrastructure gives us lighting.